Welcome back, everyone. Today I'm proud to announce that we are well over 1,000 subscribers. Thank you all very much for coming along for the first stage of the channel's development. To celebrate, we're here in the Simulacrum, and what I decided to do is build something together with you all. So, we are going to build NIDUS together. But before we build NIDUS together, we have to talk about what NIDUS actually does, because he's a little weird. So we're going to go with no mods so that you can see how the abilities work at their base, but I'm going to add Steel Fiber Vitality and Armored Agility just so we're a little bit more tanky. NIDUS has no shields, so basic overview of what we're going to cover. I'm going to give you a quick summary of each of NIDUS'S abilities, each aspect of NIDUS'S kit. Then I'm going to go into a little more detail into the nuances of it, so you can decide what you might like to build. And then, in the comments, tell me what you would like to build. You can be general or specific, you can give me specific mods, or just say damage, or memes, or whatever. Try to keep it short so I can read a lot of them really quick, and what I'm going to do is look at your responses, aggregate them together, and make a normal build video based on those responses. And that will be in a couple of days. So, leave your build ideas below the video. So again, we're going to start by giving an overview of each part of NIDUS'S kit, but then I'm going to explain them more in depth. So, the first part of NIDUS is his passives. So the biggest, most important thing is his mutation gauge. You see in the bottom right, I have a little gauge, and it's got a number 12 on it, and it's got like a circle with 5 notches, and it's almost full. So that's my mutation gauge. From here on out in this video, I'm going to refer to the number as your mutation level or mutation, and the little notches as notches. The little sections of the circle I'm going to call notches. So to gain a mutation level is 5 notches to fill a whole circle. So he has passive health regen, NIDUS'S passive health regen, but the bigger passive is Undying. When you take lethal damage with 10 or more mutation, you instead consume 10 mutation and become invulnerable for 5 seconds, and you're restored to 50% health. This can happen with no cooldown, so as many times as you have mutation to pay, and you can store up to 100 mutation levels, which means that theoretically you could die 10 times in a row and be protected each time by this passive. So that's his mutation gauge, but how do you gain it? So your 1 and your 2 are tools to gain mutation quickly. Your 1 will send out a line-shaped attack, and if it hits enemies, you get a notch of mutation. So were you to hit 3 enemies with this, you would get 3/5 of a level of mutation. You'd get 3 notches of mutation, and it can hit as many enemies as you can possibly hit with it. It only does damage when it actually passes through them though. This lingering effect is just for show. A common theme in NIDUS'S abilities. And his 2 is this little latcher guy. You shoot this out, and if there are any enemies nearby, it will suck them all together and hold them there. If there are no enemies nearby, it will just die. So as you can see, no enemies nearby. So let me show that off for you. I'm going to shoot out my 2. It's going to grab those enemies and hold them together while I get ready to hit them with my 1. Like so. As you see, I'll suddenly start gaining a lot of infestation. It goes up and up and up, and suddenly I have a whole lot. Now I can allow them to hit me, and they will be unable to kill me because I have Undying. And even when this ends, they will once again be unable to kill me because I still have enough mutation stacks to trigger Undying again. And now as you see, I'm back to 0. So that's how you use his 1 and his 2 to gain mutation stacks. Now for a couple important details about the abilities. His 1 has a special property where for every enemy hit, it will restore 7 energy, and that is not 7 energy that it costed. This ability is a base cost of 40, but you can restore 7 energy as many times as you hit enemies for. So if you notice on my energy gauge, when I stomp into this crowd, I'm not actually losing any energy because there's so many enemies to hit. I can just scoop them all together and hit them over and over, and I will never lose energy. So that's a very good thing about his 1, you can basically just spam it like that. His 3 and his 4, but on the other hand, cost mutation stacks to use. So let me go get some. His 3rd ability sends out a little infested umbilical cord, which will render a single enemy immobile and unable to take damage from you for a long period of time. You will be connected by this little rope, which has a range, and the enemy that you are connected to will take almost all of the damage that you would take in your stead. So I'll let this 110 heavy gunner shoot me. As you can see, I am taking damage, but not nearly as fast as I should be. While meanwhile, this other heavy gunner that I have my link on is taking that damage instead. Of course, because of his armor, you can barely tell, but you get the idea. This link will remain until you go out of range or until it times out. So if I run far enough away, it goes away. And casting a link costs 1 on your gauge. So to use a link, you see I have 8. I'll shoot out a link, now I only have 7. And that's what they cost. You can only have 1 link active per NIDUS at a time. They do actually have another function though, which I cannot easily demonstrate to you here, but which I'll describe. If you link yourself to a player, you and the other player both gain increased damage. No, it doesn't allow you to use them as your personal blood bag. That would be cool, but no. It gives you both increased damage, which scales with power strength. It's like 30 to 50%. It's not huge, but it's not nothing. Finally, NIDUS'S ultimate. So, you create an infested area, like you see here. You can only have one of these areas at once, so now that I've created this one, if I create another one, it will destroy the first one. This infested area has several qualities. First of all, it gives you massive health regeneration while you stand on it. So you see I step onto it, and now you can see in the top right corner, I have a 23. That is how much health per second I gain back while I'm standing on this area. With NIDUS'S already nice innate health regen, it is quite a bit. The second thing this area does is summon maggots, which you can see attacking these level 110 heavy gunners. These little pylons here spawn maggots, and the maggots will run far away and go harass enemies and upset them and keep them CC'd. The maggots do deal damage, but not very much. The other feature of the maggots is if they die, they give you a infestation notch. They give you a mutation notch. So although they are easy to kill, as you see some of these might get shot while they're running toward the heavy gunners, you still get a little bit of gauge back for using them. And that's good, because to create one of these infested bases costs 3 levels of mutation. So as you can see, I'm gaining some back because the maggots are dying, but if I make another area, let's say over here, now we'll go back to a lower amount. If I make it another area, I'll go back to 1. So that's what his ultimate does. His 1 is actually his most complicated ability, I'm realizing. So the other thing about his 1 is that it does do damage, and it does more damage the more gauge you have. So see, as you notice, if I keep stomping, the damage goes up. See, it was 48, then 50, then 5200. So it just goes up each time. So the more gauge you have, the more damage it does. And that goes up quite a bit. I mean, again, this can go to 100, so it scales pretty high. It eventually gets very high. It's worth noting again that this is all without power strength. I have no power strength, and that's how much damage it does. Absolutely insane amount of damage for a Warframe ability. It's also, of course, worth noting, though, that NIDUS'S other 3 abilities do minimal or 0 damage, so it's not as though it's immediately a good idea to make him a damage frame. But there I go, already getting into my own opinion on how to build NIDUS. But not really, I'm honestly not really sure. Like, he has things that are affected by power range, he has things that are affected by strength, he has good duration, but making that way longer. Like, imagine putting a link on someone and it lasts like 2.5 minutes, like that would be crazy. Or like you make an infested area and it lasts for like 1.5 minutes. Like that would be so crazy. You could zone control so hard, you know? I don't know. So I do think that that is a significant factor. Also, so as you see here, the damage redirection percentage on parasitic links scales with power strength. So theoretically it could get really, really high. Maybe in that case it is good to have a bit of power strength. Just a thought. I copied this weird, kind of glitchy looking black thing from Brozyme's channel. If you do not know Brozyme or Brozyme, he is another Warframe YouTuber. He and Gay Guy Plays are the Warframe YouTubers that I personally watch. If people are curious, that doesn't mean they're the only ones I think are good. It's just, honestly, that's who I watch. And Brozyme pointed out that you can put a picture in front of the camera in the environment. You know, there's like a invisible camera here that looks at you when you get into the arsenal. So you can put a picture in front of it, and then you have like a black backdrop when you're like this. But then as soon as you go to a weapon, it goes away. And this is also really, really cool. Okay, Nidus is so cool. So, thanks for watching. Remember to leave your ideas for what you want to build Nidus for in the description for the video, and I'll be looking at those and making a build video based on your responses, based on what you want to see. And I'm super excited to see what people think. I'm gonna take bets with my friends on what people vote for, what people want to build for, but I bet we'll be wrong. Like, I'm sure there's a bunch of weird things you could build Nidus for. So, that's it for me. I'm gonna start making the Nova video right now, and I'll see you all tomorrow.